Alright, and we are back, episode 57, I believe, of the Planet Zoo experience, and today we are talking about the Fossa, a very strange creature, and I learned quite a bit while doing the research for this, so I hope you stick along and learn as well, because it's quite an interesting story. However, what is the Fossa? Well, that's complicated. To put it simply, it is the largest carnivoran that can be found on the island of Madagascar. Now, why am I speaking so broadly as carnivoran? Most of the times, it would be something like mustelid or canine, feline. Well, that's because it's kind of its own thing. Now, before we get into the confusion that is this species' scientific nomenclature, the name itself is probably thought to have arrived in the Malayan language. For those who are unaware, Madagascar was colonized simultaneously by the Malaysian group of people, not modern-day Malaysia, but you know what I mean, and the Swahili people of Africa. How they did at the same time, I have absolutely no idea how the Swahili managed to get there that late in the game, but that's beside the point. And from what we can tell, the Malagasy word fossa is the slightly modified Malayan word for a weasel. However, this is not a weasel. Again, once I finish the scientific name of it, then we'll discuss what it means. Now, here's the very strange scientific name of it, and some of you may be able to tell what it means off the rip, and that would be Cryptoprocta ferox. Now, ferox means fierce, strong, which makes sense. Something its size probably had quite a bit of tenacity. Crypto, you may know this word from either cryptocurrency or cryptozoology if you're more like me, and that is actually the term meaning hidden, something that isn't well known, something that cannot be found. Procta, you may know from the term proctology, which literally translates to anus. Yes, this is the fierce hidden anus. Prim, what the hell does that mean? You know what? We're moving on. Now, the reason for that is it has a strange pouch that covers its anus. I didn't look too much into that, so if you're hoping for an answer as to why, not getting it from me, sorry. But what is this thing? Because I said it's not a weasel, even though the term for its name kind of implies weasel. Well, let's start from the top. The first scientific identification of this animal was in 1833. At the time, they thought it was a species of civet, similar to that of the civets of Madagascar, Africa, and southern Asia, as well as the binturong, which we have discussed already in this series. However, it was then thought to be a subfamily of Felidae, or cats, in 1939. Now, the reason for that is a lot of scientific geneticism comes from things like teeth structure, which they have very in common with cats, along with the retractable claws and the fact that its body kind of just looks like a shrunken down cougar. I can kind of see where they're coming from. But then it was back to civets in 1945, then thought to be in the mongoose family in 1993, because, I mean, look at it. But then it was back to cats in 95 and 03. They were then pretty much just thrown in their own little table. They pretty much were considered related to all carnivorans on the island, being the Malagasy civets and other like I said, carnivorans only found on Madagascar. And they thought that the common ancestor had branched off from mongooses sometime down the line, which we will be getting into. And that's about as close as we've got. Essentially, they're their own little special group of animals that confuse the hell out of scientists for the past, almost 200 years? Sounds about right for something from an island, especially an island that size. So, like I said, this animal looks like a shrunken down cougar with a mongoose's head and a very long tail, actually almost being half of its entire length. For reference, while these are large, they aren't that big, all things considered. They are roughly 54 to 59 inches long, with the tail alone being about 26 to 28 inches of that whole thing. And they only really weigh anywhere from 12 to 19 pounds. And as I had said, they are the largest carnivoran on the island, naturally, I should say. They are the largest endemic species, as we have introduced many animals there, as we do with everywhere. So, while it is most likely an obligate carnivore, seeds have been found in its scat. If you don't know what scat is, it's shit. Alright, let's not beat around the bush there. But that easily could come from its prey source. And what is its prey? Well, as some of you who may be fans of DreamWorks may know, lemurs, mostly. And not just mostly mammalians, no, mostly lemurs specifically. From what we can tell, about 93% of its diet that we found, and we've only seen it through scat, is meat. Half of them, unironically, 50% of all meat they eat comes from lemurs specifically. And they're the only animal on the island, natively, that is large enough to hunt even the largest species of lemur on the island. Which some of them can reach 90% the body weight of the fossa. Now, getting into the history, there's going to be a little bit of geographic history thrown in here. And trust me, it's going to be worth listening to. Because I find it very interesting. And that is the fact that Madagascar split from Africa 170 to 155 million years ago. But not as an island. As a matter of fact, it split off connected to India. Yes, Madagascar had actually been connected to the subcontinent of India for a longer period of time than it was with Africa, which may explain why it's so goddamn weird. Now, it then eventually split off from India as that subcontinent made its journey to where we know it today, roughly 88 million years ago, becoming an island. Now, interestingly enough, they were thought to have split off from mongooses 21 million years ago. That is 10 times older than the first humanoid species. Not just humans, because this was back during the first Homo species, Homo habilis. At that point, we literally looked like apes that walked upright with kinda, sorta human features, but not really. Now, they did have a giant, I'm using quotes here because it's still not that big, ancestors known as Cryptoprocta spelea, which weighed a whopping 37 to 44 pounds. If we base their hunting ability on the modern day fossa, they would be something large enough to hunt baboons. Now, mostly just females and small males, however, they could have possibly gone after larger males based on the fact that their bones are more robust than their extant relatives. Keep that in mind next time you laugh at these weird mongoose things. Their ancestors could kick your ass. It's like telling your bully your dad's going to beat you up. Anyway, now, getting into the modern notion of the fossa, there's not much, but there is some cultural influence. First and foremost, they are regarded differently based on the communities of Madagascar. For instance, some consider them to be thieves, stealing both livestock and even children at times. Is there any proof of this? Absolutely fucking not. Especially if you're talking about livestock like sheep and cattle. No. A fossa, first and foremost, wouldn't be able to actually, carry away something like that, let alone kill it. But in other communities, they are seen as spiritually protected and are forbidden to be harmed by that custom. Now, I guess the creators of the movie Madagascar, as I'm sure many of you may know them as, or know them from, as the Fossa. I don't know why they added an extra O in there, but maybe it just sounded better. But yes, when I found out about that, my childhood was also ruined, so congratulations, now you're stuck here too. They must have felt that the former was more intimidating, which, fair enough. However, the animals representing the fossa, they're not similar at all. As you can see, they actually have cat-like faces, which is the one part of them that is distinctly not cat-like. And also, on top of that, they were very skillful and quiet hunters. They were not these weird, psychotic, schizophrenic animals that desperately hunted everything like a ravenous storm of mammalian locusts. And on top of all that, they were actually solitary predators. As a matter of fact, they are almost never seen with any sort of group or even pack mentality. Not that they would need them. Seeing as how they are bigger and stronger than pretty much any of their prey, there's no need for them to hunt in packs. But, of course, with every animal, there are dangers. And this animal, unfortunately, has dealt with the same old song and dance we've got going. Being killed for bushmeat, despite the spiritualism that once was a part of the culture of the people, has slowly decayed away over time due to, I can't even say westernization, because it's just modernization, the lack of the stigmatism and spiritual nature of modern humanity. And of course the deforestation that has happened all across the island, causing their habitat to become more and more fragmentary, keeping them away from breeding pairs. However, they have seemed to have succeeded enough to stay only in the vulnerable aspect. While the animal itself is in some form of danger, I do believe it has the ability, especially with the fact how lemurs are kind of doing fairly well in urban environments. I believe the fossa itself will also succeed. There's no way that they are going to run out of lemurs, especially with how much of a tourist attraction they are. You're going to need something to keep those things in line. However, the introduction of things like cats and other feral predators really are wreaking havoc. So, that is the video for this week. I do apologize in advance if you missed this video from last week. Unfortunate circumstances have been unfolding in my life, and to put it simply, I was on bereavement leave. So I do hope that you are willing to accept my humble apologies for the day. But you're not here for me, you're here for the information. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have anything you'd like to add, or if you have something, or if you have ideas that could lead me to be better at making content, please let me know down in the comments. Any sort of interaction is valued, positive or negative. So, with all that being said, go outside, touch grass, hug your loved ones especially, and drink plenty of water. Until next time, bye-bye.